Hey, we got cut off there, so we was in a flow. I think we was just still talking away. So yeah, basically the coffee mornings. I was saying that I get a more than a thrill. It's a deep, deep satisfaction that the growth of individual women who have, travelled through the coffee morning. Many have still been there after 5 years because they choose to, still come, or if they don't come to the actual coffee morning, they're still part of the group. But I mean, most people, yeah, will still come to the coffee morning. But it's a fantastic environment for healing and positivity and focus on self, which is really vital. So basically, I think. Can I ask a question? I'm going to ask you a question actually, and that is: you are the only man in the coffee morning because obviously you are the host. You host with me. So my question to you would be: how is that for you? In terms of, and what benefits do you think it creates for the women?
Right, so that's a two-part
That's a
question.
two-part question.
How is it for me?
How's it for you?
Um, I remember when we first started this. Was it 5 years ago?
Yeah,
Something like
5 years coming up.
that. I think the first one was in Ealing, and
Yeah, it was.
yeah, you see.
Um,
Um, yeah, I remember feeling slightly hesitant
mm,
because I wasn't too sure how people would um, receive me being there because of the nature and the topic of what we're talking about.
mm,
You know, um, essentially when we were having people attend their coffee mornings, which was primarily and specifically for women survivors of abuse,
mm-hmm.
99.9% of the time their abusers were going to be male.
Yeah.
So it was, would they somehow see another male in this environment? How would they feel about opening up about their subjects? I was very, very mindful of that and very, very respectful about it. And
Mm.
I remember being so conscious about aiming to stay in the background, not making eye contact. So many things I was conscious
Yeah,
about,
I know.
and it took. I wouldn't, you know, I wouldn't interject until I could see the individual start to relax, and I gave them the time to do that. So I was acting like an observer really for the
Mm.
first few, and only sort of like you know make an input where I felt it was
It
going to
didn't
be
come
valid.
over like that though for me.
What didn't come over like that?
That you were the. I realised that you weren't taking the lead
Mm.
in, but it didn't feel like you were the observer because I actually do feel from the beginning you've contributed to all the discussions. You've helped to lead those discussions, even if you didn't start them off, initiate them.
Yeah, it was
You've never
important.
been observer. I would never given you.
I was very observant.
Yeah, observant.
Yeah,
I wouldn't call you the observer.
no, okay. But yeah, that was how I initially approached the coffee mornings. But obviously, we've been doing it so many years now.
Mm.
Make it sound like
Well,
half
it
my
has
life,
been.
but yeah.
It's
But
5 years coming up.
yeah, the thing that I've identified and I always have in my mind is essentially working with people who are looking to move on,
Mm.
and pretty much typically all of us we do have to interact with the opposite sex at some point in time during our day.
Mm.
So if they were going to have an issue with me being there, then quite likely they would have an issue with a male being in any environment. So what I aimed to do was to essentially make them feel just comfortable, you know, not challenge anything that was being said, but come from it from a coaching perspective
Mm-hmm.
and supporting their perspective, and if anything, trying to show a new perspective if I felt it was going to change their view in a positive way.
Yeah.
So it wasn't challenging. I wasn't there to challenge, but I was there really solely as a professional, um, to help them to move themselves on a little bit. But also, I spent a lot of time just letting them know what I felt about women survivors of abuse, and it's never really changed. And essentially, the way I view this particular group is that they, you know, for whatever reason, have survived something which I would say other people probably would not have survived, and they've come out the better for it, which essentially means that they have deep, deep reservoirs of strength and resilience and resources, and that I kind of like I'm quite in awe of the women that we work with, because they've had to at some point in their life utilize those deep, deep resources of strength and resilience, and they've done it once. And as a professional, my job is to say to them, look, you've pulled yourself up, by the bootstraps to get you through a traumatic situation. Do you realize that those same resources that you've had to tap into are the same resources that you can employ to shape your future?
Yeah, or overcome a hurdle.
To overcome a hurdle. So now you can say, right, this is my destiny. I want to achieve X, Y, and Z. I know that I can do it because I've come through whatever, and I've got the strength, the resources, the resilience to do it. But now it's going to be targeted in a specific direction, one of my own choosing. And that's what I try to bring to the women, or share with them every now and again, that they are, they're superhuman. They're unique, and they have, they've actually touched, the reservoirs of strength that they've had. Some of us never get there. Some of us never face that level of challenge. We've never had those questions asked about ourselves. These women have, and they've come through it.
Yeah. It doesn't mean that you'll get to a stage in your life and you turn around and say, I'm healed, but you've moved, you've grown so much in your life that you can actually look back and say, I've come so far. I'm a changed person, I've invested in me, I'm stronger. But what needs to happen is you have tools that you continue to invest in you. And that's vital. And even for myself, as someone who's gone through multiple child abuse, and just as a snippet, I don't mind sharing that because I've actually written a book about it. Just to say, when I say multiple child abuse and domestic violence, as a child, I went through my mother's ex boyfriend at the time. My mum passed away last year, actually. So, but my mum's ex partner, when I was little, had abused me. Then I've had cousin number one who abused, and then I had a foster child who was a foster child in our family, abused me, and then I had cousin number two who abused me from the age of 14 till I was 21. So that was already, by the time I had even come out of my adolescence, my brain had already accepted kind of a limiting belief about myself, and my self-esteem, my confidence were very low. And I ended up, and I didn't have the I'm going to say the skills to negotiate relationships and healthy relationships. However, you'd never know that in terms of the field that I worked in, because I had the best uh, friendships and I had the best professional relationships. But however, within my kind of the love relationships was not. So it's taken a long time, but that also, I've got to say, on top of that, I had to go through a lot of mental health issues, from depression, suicidal attempts, to there was drug use, to a number of different things happening in my life to get to a certain age in my life where I now had to start building me up. And even though that is now I've been doing all that self-investment work for way over a decade. It's probably about 15 or so years now. I still have to do it because I still go through periods of low for myself, not depths of low,
Mm-hmm.
but um, I can actually recognise when I might feel unbalanced,
Yeah.
and that's okay because I can now tap into toolboxes or different people, or I know where I can signpost myself to uplift my state and change my state,
Mm.
you know, or if I realise that, you know, maybe there were resources I've been using that keeps me positive, keeps me tuned, and I realise all of a sudden I've stopped using all those resources and my mind feels negative, for example,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, because I know there are resources that I have been using and I stopped using them. I already know what the problem is, so I'm able to kind of identify that and make those changes for me. Or I'm at a stage now where, and I've not been at this stage for, you know, many years, but I could be at a stage where I'm confident to say, you know what, I need support or I need help, because I've built myself up to say it's way okay to ask for help.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I've developed that there is no shame. I've removed shame, and I think that's something that for years I suffered with in my life, was that personal shame attached to abuse, and that was, you know, an element that either came from, I've got to say, a cultural element of keeping it quiet, and or it could be that, you know, the shame of, I've got this professional face on, I'm going up in my professional ladder, yet all this crap is going on in my life back home, you know. So there's lots of elements that I recognise in the women that we serve, that they're going through those same kind of steps, those stages in their life where they're probably having to overcome shame, or those feelings of being hurt, or the reaching out, or learning what is in their toolbox. You know, what resources do they have? What have they used before? You know, what's worked? When did it work? Or, you know, there's something that I remember putting this in my book actually, and that was, do you know when you've got children, and when you are, children have different eating habits, for example, and sometimes it might be that whatever you've got on the menu isn't okay for all the children, so you know you might adapt the menu a little bit when you're coming up with a recipe. And let's say, for example, that over time those children no longer want the food that you're serving. So if they no longer want the food that you're serving, you've got to change that menu. And if you change the menu, you're going to need different ingredients. Now, as an analogy, if you could take the same thing and decide when you go to the shop, you now have to go down a totally different aisle for those ingredients that you need for the new menu. So, likewise for your life and for your healing, it may come to a stage where if you're doing something and it's no longer serving you, you may need to change something, which might mean you need to take another path in life, you know, to access a particular type of resources or expect a different outcome. So something needs to tweak in what you're doing. And for me, on the decades that I went through a healing process, I had to do just that. Just like the women who were using the service, coming to the coffee morning, the discussions enable them to think about what it is they need to do for their healing journeys, what's the outcome they want for their life.
So, with regards to the coffee mornings, then, what would you say would be the number one attraction, or the one thing that you would celebrate as being the main reason why someone should attend the coffee morning?
No judgment. No judgment. It's a, you said number one, that's real hard.
Yeah, the one thing.
It's
Yeah.
just one thing.
Well, if you've got more than one, but
Okay, I'm
your
going
your,
to
your top
say,
your top one.
um, I'm going to say it's a group of people who will celebrate you regardless where you're at. And it's a place where, you know, we forget to celebrate ourselves, you know, and I think it's the growth that people see in you is celebrated. You know, they will share that with you. It is a very safe place to be. It's a nurturing place. The comments that come out of the women are that the coffee morning sets them up for the week. You know, the mere fact that they've used that space to invest in themselves enables them, you know, that's their time, their precious time. And I think that's what it's been for them. It's a precious moment, it's a precious time of, of and I've got to say, we're online now. I know we keep on saying we'll meet up in the physical. I know we're not telling you we're telling these guys. Right, it's online now, so, and we meet up every Saturday from 11 till 12. Um, and it's become a place where people hold that hour as the bit that just gives them the boost for their week, and I think that says a lot about what that hour does and the people that attend that hour. It says a lot.
Yeah, you know, for me, the reason why the coffee morning's been going for 5 years and it is still popular is because of the dynamics that are involved, um, not just between us, but within the group.
Mm.
The dynamics between us clearly is because your perspective is one, you know, there's going to be an element of empathy because you can identify with some of the women's journeys, and you've been quite public about your particular journey because obviously you've written a book and you speak about it in certain forms, etc. So there's that degree of empathy, and that's something which I think the 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 women understand because, as you know, even in neurolinguistics, we know that people like people who are similar to themselves,
Yeah.
so they naturally gravitate to 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 you and to people who've had similar backgrounds. And I think the other dynamic which makes it successful is that there's that level of professionalism because not only are you someone who's comes from an empathic viewpoint, but you come from it from a professional viewpoint, being a coach and being an NLP practitioner. And one of the things I think that's really good about the dynamics of the coffee morning is that we do look at different perspectives, and because yeah, I'm a guy, I'm a male, so my perspective is always going to be slightly skewed or slightly different from a woman's perspective. But it's not to be judgmental or to critique. It's actually to for me to gain understanding, but also to possibly give those who are attending an understanding of what a male viewpoint might be like, yeah, in a safe environment. Because sometimes it's like when we do perceptual positions, yeah, sometimes it's important to understand another viewpoint but from a safe place, yeah, so we can look objectively at you know candidate A's viewpoint and candidate B's viewpoint and look at it from an objective safe space and understand the two and understand possibly how the world might view their situation and hopefully get some answers from that unique perspective. So I think that's why the coffee morning kind of works, because it's not just you running it, someone who understands their journey because you've been there before, but there's an objective professional viewpoint as well, which only exists really to help the women.
Yeah.
So it is kind of unique in that sense, I think, that we have that dynamic, yourself, myself, and obviously um, the attendees that are there.
Do you know, the other thing just to add about the coffee morning now that it's online is we've got people from different parts of the world attending the coffee morning.
Yeah, that's true.
Which is beautiful. So I actually love that we've moved it online in one sense, and I look forward to meeting up again, because one of the other things that we do over the 5 years is once or twice, actually, it's usually twice, but if anything, it's at least once a year we meet up at the end of the year, and it's an open invitation for anyone to come along. Obviously, not if you're in another country, but that's where we are now. But that's been lovely as well, because and that brings in the WhatsApp group that we have, the support group, because what's been so lovely, you'll get some people who are so quiet all year, and now and again they will share and say that I may be quiet but I'm learning so much from this group, but they turn up to the meetup, which is beautiful.
Question for you though.
Yeah.
Everyone that's attended, I'm trying to sort of like remember everyone that's attended. They themselves qualify to attend the group because they've gone through a level of abuse.
Yeah.
Would you say the group would facilitate or work with someone who was attending who knew someone who had gone through abuse?
Yes. If you felt, and I think that's yes is the short answer. It would do if you're especially still in that relationship where you're supporting someone with abuse. Um, and it might be that you're the support for the person and you've come together. That's fine. The group would be open to that, and has been open to that, and has received that kind of take up as well. So it's also about understanding as well for yourself, because you've got not just the person going through the abuse, but and it might be that you're supporting someone but you're not quite understanding some of those issues that that person is going through, or why that self-limiting mindset, where that came from, and the impact that the abuse has caused on them to cause that. Yeah. But it also might be that you need to equip yourself more so that you feel able to support your loved one even more.
Yeah. So essentially, the group does exist, obviously and clearly, for women who have gone through a traumatic experience, an abusive experience, but it also exists to support people who are in a close relationship with someone who has been in that place, so that they themselves could respond in a more
once they feel trusting, if they're coming as couples, then that's the trust work you've got to do between yourselves for both people to be there, to feel comfortable. But if you need to come on your own and away from your partner who has gone through abuse, and you're there supporting them in terms of you're in a new relationship and the person's been abused from previous relationship, but you need to come as a support mechanism. Yes, I think the group would be open to that, for you to be part of it. It's a resource.
Okay. So, do you want to say anything in conclusion? Anything unsaid?
How do you get to come to the coffee morning?
That's a good one, isn't
it? Yeah. What I'm going to do is, at the end of this live, above, you're going to see a link in the subject heading, and I'll put one in the thread as well. Because I know this video got cut into 2 parts, so I'll do it on both of them. So you can then book online, and I know the booking, you can book to come to a session, or you can book to come for 3 months as a membership, or a year. So the choice is yours. Anything you need me to say on
No, I think that is it. I mean, essentially, what we wanted to do with this video live is really just bring or shine a light on the work that we're doing, and also to just let people know where they can contact us, how they can find the coffee mornings, and the details around that.
Do you know, I'm going to add another thing. It needed to be. I think it was really important because that people saw the people behind it as well. Yeah, because we put up posters all the time, flyers to say, it's there. People have come from that, or they found us on the ticket sites the two different ones that we've used, and they come along. But you know, what can stop someone is not knowing who's running it or what their intentions or motives are behind why they're running it. So I think that was really important for us today to come up here to say, you know, who we are, why we do it.
Yeah,
You know,
I think
and
that's been good.
how approachable we are as well.
Yes.
Me.
Because we are approachable.
Yeah.
We are
Yeah.
approachable, yeah.
And humour as well. I've got to say, we use a lot of humour as well. And I think humour is important, especially on a sensitive subject as well. You know, correct humour when it's delivered correctly, and I think it comes out naturally. That's my inner child. My inner child loves things like cartoons and fun and belly laughs, and that naturally comes out. So, from what I've gathered, it also helps people to relax as well. You know, to say it's not all so serious and tense and we're gonna just sit round in a circle and well we can't sit around this on the line, but you know what I mean, and it's such a heavy subject that you know that it's handled professionally, but it's also we use different techniques as well as humour to be able to put over a topic as well and make it as comfortable as possible to be able to explore and get, you know, nitty gritty
Yes.
with the
We are
topic.
professionals.
We are.
We are professionals. So, listen, everyone on this live, thank you for attending. And there are two videos on this subject that we've done this evening. If you've got any questions that you want to put to Malakh or myself, please, you know, just visit our Facebook and post your questions. Malakh will respond in a timely fashion because she is, you know, that way minded. Please, if you know anyone that's going to benefit from the coffee mornings, then please share this information with them. We'd be, you know, be over the moon to welcome them onto the coffee mornings. We do have a high level of confidentiality with regards to the subject matter that we deal with, so you know there's nothing to worry about there. But
and the people that attend.
Yeah, and the people that attend, you know, there's total anonymity if that's what they wish. But listen, thanks for sparing the time. I know it's your Tuesday evening. Yeah. And you know, I just want to wish you a very, very wonderful evening and a very, very wonderful rest of the week.
Absolutely. And also, if there's anything you want us to talk about, maybe in another Facebook Live, just put that also in the thread below, and we would, yeah, be honoured to come back and talk about it. Yeah.
If we can, yeah.
If we can.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Thank you
very much.
so much.
All right. See you guys.
Take
Bye.
care, everyone.